Story 1. When I was in high school, my biology teacher blended a Happy Meal, a burger and fries, and left the mix in a refrigerator overnight. The next day, when she showed it to the class again, it was about 60% white congealed fat on top. It was a big wake-up call for me as an overweight teen who ate junk. I started eating right, riding my bike, eventually moved on to running and going to the gym. Lost about 40 pounds. Fantastic teacher. Story 2. My teenage son asked to go to Italy on a school trip. I wanted to go as well, but I knew I was too big to fly comfortably and do all the walking the trip required. I lost around 70 pounds before the trip. That was a year ago. I decided to keep going and have lost 130 pounds to date. Update. Wow, so many upvotes. Thank you all so much for your kind words. As far as how I did it, I started with medication. I needed the help to start my journey. I stalled after a few months because I didn't make any changes aside from the medication. Now I focus my meals on higher protein and small amounts of carbohydrates. I noticed I binge when I cut out all carbs. I am also sure to drink plenty of water and electrolytes. I move most of my day. I'm a high school teacher, so that affords me the opportunity to do so. I am now starting to walk consistently and lift weights. I'm in this for life. I want to see my grandchildren and play with them. Red Heart. Story 3. I gained a ton of weight due to severe mental health issues. This resulted in becoming a couch potato and eating unhealthy food. After stabilizing my life, eventually I found a job as a baker at Tim Hortons. I worked 6 days a week for 4 months and ended up losing 50 pounds by just being on my feet, moving 8 to 9 hours a day, 6 days a week. I find it ironic that I lost that much weight by working at a donut shop. Story 4. Ate less, ate healthier, and exercised. I didn't make a lot of big changes at once either. The first thing I did was cut sodas out of my diet. Then a couple of weeks later, I started leaving cheese off my burgers and hot dogs. A couple of weeks after that, I started ordering small meals at fast food places instead of large ones. Then I started eating cucumber slices instead of chips or fries. Instead of eating things like candy bars, I switched to chocolate-covered fruit, and eventually to just regular fruit. Stuff like that. As for exercise, again, nothing major. The first change was walking once around the block I lived on. For weeks, that was it. Then I started adding in bicep curls. Then sit-ups. Then push-ups. Then light stretches. Over a 6-month period, I went from 345 pounds and walking a half mile leaving me breathless and with chest pains to 267 pounds and walking several miles at a time. Story 5. I lost 125 pounds and counting in just over a year. I ditched sugar, both real and artificial. I stopped drinking everything except water for the first year. I stopped craving it, and now, honestly, everything I eat tastes so overly and grossly sweet. I prefer just to have nibbles of something sweet versus a pint of Ben and Jerry's like I once did. What made me want to change and gave me the push I needed should probably be the real question here. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3C breast cancer, having just turned 31. I gained about 40 pounds from all the steroids and chemotherapy drugs. Then I rang the bell, got divorced, another big celebration, trust me, started radiation therapy, completed that, and then met with my plastic surgeon for reconstruction surgery. He looked at me and told me, "Congratulations on beating your cancer, but you aren't a candidate for the surgery you want until you lose weight." I left in tears. I had about 48 hours of a pity party, and then I threw up my hands and decided that was it. Needless to say, when I saw him again just 6 months ago for my big surgery, he was floored. So here I am, 2 years later from my cancer diagnosis, and I feel like a whole new person from the outside in, and it feels great. Story 6. In 2020, I weighed 335 pounds. I am 5 feet 7 inches tall, and was being treated for coronary artery disease and type 2 diabetes. In 2021, my doctor told me I was at risk of having a heart attack any day. He suggested I consider weight loss surgery or focus on diet and exercise. Because of diabetes, I qualified for a medication called Trulicity, which helps suppress appetite. He mentioned that he had seen patients lose up to 30 pounds, and even that would help. I followed his advice and also began counting calories. In a year, I had lost about 70 pounds and started working out. I have now lost over 100 pounds and no longer require treatment for diabetes or heart disease. I work out 6 days a week, work at my gym, and now teach exercise classes to seniors. Live strong. Story 7. Quit a job, unemployed for 3 months. I pretty much did push-ups all day and only ate rice, eggs, and chicken thighs. No alcohol too. Went from 210 to 185 in about 10 weeks. Story 8. You know the joke about how to starve an introvert? Put a stranger in their kitchen. Except for me, it was severe social anxiety, and I was forced to live in the college dorms where the only source of food was a crowded cafeteria. That, plus a depression, anxiety, and sleep deprivation cocktail, and I weighed about 86 pounds my first couple of years in college. Would not recommend. Story 9. Gastroparesis. It got so bad that my body tolerated literally nothing that I ate, and I was in pain and vomiting. When I was 17, I was in the hospital for 5 months and had to have intravenous nutrition so I didn't die. Story 10. I stopped eating in the mornings. The second I started eating, I would be hungry and continue eating, so by limiting that window, I could easily cut out a significant amount of calories. I also made a mental effort to stop eating when I feel full, not when my plate is clear or the bag of chips is empty. As to what made me decide to lose weight, I wanted to like seeing myself in photos. I wanted to feel more comfortable fitting into my clothes, and I wanted more energy. Story 11. Stress. When my boyfriend was cheating on me, beating me up, and constantly putting me down, my stomach turned into stone, and I was unable to eat. I was a stick. Story 12. For me, the turning point consisted of a few realizations roughly around the same time. Felt a little like puzzle pieces falling into place. Figuring out what actual hunger felt like. I had always confused hunger with the feeling of space in my, then overstretched, tummy and genuinely didn't know better. Truly realizing that I was only doing this for myself and nobody else. I like me and I want me to be healthy. Finally understanding and accepting that progress isn't linear and therefore losing my black and white thinking about calories. No more binge starvation cycle. All the best to you on your journey. Story 13. Grief? Everyone's grief response is different. Mine is apparently that I stop eating. I think it's a combination of the fact that food has no flavor in the throes of absolute grief and the idea of chewing and swallowing food is such an effort. I understand why neighbors bring food after funerals. I lost a little brother to a long illness when I was in high school and a father with no medical history to a sudden medical event in my mid-20s. Both times, I slimmed down significantly, which was frequently noted out of polite concern. In my early 30s, ending a long romantic relationship, we lived together. I thought his parents would be grandparents to my children, if not for the absolute contempt he developed for everything I said and did. While I hate to admit this was as much a grief event as losing my immediate family members, I am the thinnest I've been in quite some time. I miss seeing our dog every day so much. Story 14. Honestly, it was just reaching a point where I felt done with excuses. I started with small changes like cutting out soda and walking more, and it snowballed from there. Consistency really was the game changer for me. Story 15. Reading these comments makes it seem like a lot of people lost weight due to intense life changes such as addiction, divorce, depression, and so on. It was quite the opposite for me. I began losing weight when my life finally improved significantly. I entered my first relationship, got my dream job, and moved to my dream home with my family. For the first time in forever, I had a reason not to eat myself to death, so I began losing weight. I dropped 50 pounds in just a few months and felt great. Unfortunately, all of these things came to an end, and I gained the weight back, but I'm currently working on improving myself again, and this time, nothing and nobody is going to stop me. Story 16. Lost 225 pounds, half my weight. I just started moving and cut soda, sugar, mostly it's almost unavoidable, and fried foods. I just started moving, walking a half block at first. Now I cycle in large riding events and do CrossFit daily. My opinion, just move. Story 17. Quitting drinking allowed me to more consistently build healthy eating and exercise habits. No more weekend binges and unfocused, hungover workouts. Story 18. Counting calories consistently. The key for me was consistency. I had to stick to it every day with no cheat days. And when I eased up, I gained back most of it. It's not temporary. Story 19. Told myself over and over, food is fuel, not feelings. Am I eating this because I want to or because I need to? Also, just going against mealtime norms. Why eat 3 meals a day if I have to sort of force one of those meals? If I had an unusually large breakfast or lunch, why not eat basically a snack for dinner, even though it's unusual? I always ask my dad if he's eating something because he's hungry and needs energy or just because it's 6 a.m., 12 p.m., 6 p.m., etc. He's never hungry. Story 20. Fasting. By practicing it in a controlled manner, I was able to reduce my caloric intake effectively, and in addition, the process helped improve my metabolism. Story 21. Being 7 years old, starting ballet, and having a completely distorted view of seeing my value in my size led to amphetamine abuse that made me even smaller, obsessing over counting my ribs every night, weighing my food and calorie counting all down to self-image and worth. Story 22. Went to China. Ate a ton of food and walked nearly 600 kilometers in a month. Didn't start losing weight until I got a stomach bug from some street food. I was having bowel movements 10 times a day. Story 23. One day, I started going for walks at work. I weighed more than 300 pounds. I began counting calories and basically just ate the same thing every day, so it was easy to track. I lost 140 pounds that way, but gained about 60 back. I fluctuated between 250 and 220 for a few years. I was diagnosed with diabetes on my birthday last year and finally got my act together. I started Ozempic in August last year and changed my diet entirely. High protein and low carbs. I began lifting weights regularly in March of this year, and I'm down to the 150s. I'm going off Ozempic in January because my A1C is back to normal, and I'm going to really start focusing on weights and cardio. I'm hoping to gain back 20 to 30 pounds in muscle instead of fat in the next few years. I'm 46 now, aiming for my goal physique by 50. Story 24. Ozempic. Down 80 pounds in about 18 months. And yes, you do still have to do the work. It just makes it much easier. I get it prescribed for diabetes, but I'm no longer diabetic thanks to the medication. Story 25. In college, most people gain weight. I went from 250 to 195, August to February. The secret was never taking an elevator when walking to classes and eating just twice a day. I had a hiking-style backpack which stored all 30-plus pounds of my books. I also carried a laptop, circa 2005, as they were still chunky, and an additional full 32-ounce aluminum water bottle. It helped that my campus was fairly hilly. Most of the time, I drank sparkling water or used sugar-free Crystal Light lemonade to mix in plastic water bottles. The dorm water tasted bad. Occasionally, my roommates and I would order Domino's or Chinese food, so that was my cheat. I have a soda once a week while doing laundry since that's where the vending machine was. So walk a lot, avoid elevators, drink water, and carry a heavy backpack when you are out. Story 26. I got really sick and was diagnosed with a brain tumor that was causing a disease called Cushing's. The tumor had been in my head a long time and was causing my pituitary gland to send erroneous signals to my adrenal glands to release more and more cortisol. I was extremely overweight for more than a decade and thought I just wasn't trying hard enough to lose weight. Turned out it was all because of this tumor. All of my symptoms, including obesity, were being caused by this little thing telling my body to do the wrong things. After 4 surgeries, the Cushing's was cured, and I lost 160 pounds in a year without doing a thing. It just fell off. So when someone says they're overweight due to a glandular disorder, they might be telling the truth. Story 27. Illness. 4 months of aggressive chemotherapy had my 19-year-old self down from an athletic 77 kilograms, 170 pounds, to a rather uncomfortable 56 kilograms. I do not recommend. Story 28. Heartbreak can do it. Earlier this year, I was going through some personal issues, and I kid you not, I lost 15 pounds in about 2 weeks. I am already a skinny guy, so realizing I lost that much was pretty concerning. I have since gained those 15 pounds back and am trying to bulk up and be better about working out and getting all my calories. It was a real eye-opener. Depression and anxiety are no joke. I just had no appetite whatsoever and couldn't hold food down. I am still a deeply depressed person, but at least I am eating again. I literally looked like I was dying back in August and early September. I look perfectly healthy again, despite some bad habits I am dealing with. Story 29. The knowledge that I was no longer able to live my life as a human garbage disposal. In addition, I was desperate to get back into my old, beloved pants. Story 30. Vestibular neuritis. A virus that attacks your inner ear and damages it. I felt dizzy and seasick for 8 months, and went from a muscular 172 down to 146. Pure misery. I don't recommend this weight loss program. Story 31. Throat cancer. 7 months of treatment. 33 rounds of radiation. 7 rounds of chemotherapy. Blisters everywhere in my mouth and throat. I drank liquid lidocaine to eat any food. I avoided a feeding tube. Lost 50 pounds. I'm 2.5 years cancer-free. Story 32. I couldn't figure out why my ex was so disinterested in me. I felt like a big fat monster at a whopping 155 pounds. I lost 30 pounds with calorie counting and kept the majority of that off by just switching how I eat. Volume eating is the best way I can describe it. I still eat whatever I want, but I overeat with low-calorie foods if that makes sense. For example, I'll cut up a slice of pizza and put it over a big salad. Story 33. This may not work for everyone, but I stopped checking my weight obsessively. Every day I would get on the scale and it would, of course, fluctuate. Anytime it went up, I would be really hard on myself and force myself to eat healthily and change my diet for that whole day. Then go back to eating poorly the following day. I saw my parents last week and they said I lost a lot of weight and asked if I was working out. I said no. I have not checked my weight in over a year now.